Welcome to Wire Guild. This bracelet is a really quite an easy to do adjustable bangle. Very popular. You will need a certain amount of brute strength because the wire we're going to use is very thick. I'm going to use 2mm or 12 gauge round wire. If you want to put some beads on, I'm going to show you how to do that as well. You're also going to need a hammer and some form of solid surface because we're going to beat this wire into submission. It's quite good fun actually. So this is the bracelet we're going to be making. As you can see, when you give it a tug, it opens up, and the idea is then that it will allow to pass it over your hand and close it down. It's a very old idea. I had a christening bracelet like this when I was little, and that's quite a long time ago. So you can do all sorts of things with it to pretty it up. You can add beads, you can do some hammering. If you'd like to stamp, you could stamp on it, but let's show you what we're going to do. First I need to know how much I need to go over my hands. My hands are huge, so I'm going to need a lot of wire. You probably won't need anywhere near as much as I do. So I've taken a small piece of wire and I'm passing it over my hand. And when I get to the point where it will go over, I just twist those two wires around. Now if you've got something like a bangle measurer, it will do this for you. I've never bothered, I just use bits of wire. So that's quite a long bit of wire. So let me just see how much I've got there. Just get my ruler. Now then, let's have a look. I've got 9.5 inches. As I say, I have large hands. You're probably not going to need much bigger than that, although I've done men's that have been bigger. So the wire I'm going to use, the 2mm wire, needs to be at least that length, plus a bit. So let me just pull this out. It's a heavy gauge. You do not want to be buying half hard in 2mm. You'll never move it, so make sure that you buy dead soft. Also, due to the design and it's slipping over itself all the time, you can't really go for a plate. You're either going to have to go for a solid wire. So you're going to go for silver, or you're going to go for copper, or possibly niobium. That's very pretty, the lovely colours. You could use aluminium for this if you wanted, or I'm trying to remember how you say it in America, aluminum. Anyway, so I'm going to measure that against my bit of wire. There we go. Now, like I said, we need a little bit extra. Can you see these corners here? And it wraps round and goes over the wire itself. Well, that's where we need the extra bits. So you've got near enough ½ inch and then a little bit extra. So I'm going to give myself 3/4 inch on each end. However, if it means that you have to take a little bit of it off, I would rather do that than waste the whole thing, because I haven't left myself enough room and then it doesn't fit. So we've got our piece of wire that we've passed over our hand, and we've worked out what that length it is, and then add to that the extra at the end. So you've got the length of your hand plus both ends of the wire, so 2 times 3/4 inch. So I need an extra 1.5 inches. You may find that when you've done this once or twice, if you make notes, it's always a good idea to make notes when you're making, that you could do with a little less. Maybe you only need ½ inch at either end, but I'm going to do it at 3/4 just to be on the safe side. So there's my extra 1.5 inches, and that takes me to there, and then I'll just snip that. Strong hands, really push, sharp snips, and through. Tough stuff, this 2mm. I'm going to show you a couple of different ways of doing this. I'm going to show you one with beads on and one without beads on. Now, to get it this round and smooth, if you were starting flat and without any beads on, we would just hammer either end. But first of all, I'm going to show you what we'd do if we're going to put some copper beads on it. The beads have to go on first because we're going to hammer both ends. Once we hammer both ends, the beads won't come off. Now with a bead in place, it's very difficult to shape this into a circle because as you put it around your form that you're going to shape around, it distorts because of the bead being in the way. And also, if you're using a metal bead like I'm going to, it could actually crush the bead. So I'm going to shape my wire up before I even start. So I've got a jam jar, because as you all know I like using jam jars, and I'm going to go all the way around and cross the ends over. This is hard metal. You will feel this on your fingers. So take your time and make sure that it's pressed out, right down, without stabbing yourself. Go on and press on both ends. Now make sure it goes over your hand, which it does, and lots of room to spare there. It's huge, is that? So I need a smaller jam jar. So around the smaller jam jar and tighten down. Always better to start with a bigger one first and then work down. Can you see how the ends stick up? Well, I'm just going to get my plastic jawed pliers, but any jawed pliers will do. And I'm going to hold that end, and can you see, support the whole circle, twist with my right hand, which will just bring that in. A little bit too far in, but could you see? Same again now on this side. Support the whole circle and twist with the hand that the pliers in. It's only a little bit, but it just brings those ends in. Right, so we've got our circle there. All the time I'm supporting the whole circle. Now I'm going to go around the neck of the jam jar because I want it to come in even more. And round and press. Don't worry too much about those ends now. There we go. So you've got a nice bit of spring in that, but you've also got a nice circular shape. Okay. Then we need to thread some beads on. Now this is only if you put in large beads on. You know, these Pandora type beads or these, that sort of thing. They look really great on these. I've just used a large hole lampwork bead, you know, just one focal bead looks great on. This is a steel block, and it's only little, but it does the job. And this is my hammer. Yes, this is a specific hammer for doing wire work, but as long as it's got a smooth end like that, it really doesn't matter, so any hammer will do. If you haven't got a steel block, oh, I don't know, just something really solid, lump of wood. Now if I was to slip that underneath thinking, oh yeah, this will be easier, and then I braid it, I would flatten the underneath wire as well, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put the wire as close as I can get, and I can start, and I'm hammering just the edges here, just beating it up. You notice how silent it is. I've taken the sound off. Can you just see how that's starting to go? Yeah, wrong side. And just beat this some more. This hammer's really cool. It's called a whammer. It's actually a hammer that's designed specifically for wire jewellery. The hard rubbery bit on the other end is great for lighter weight wire, but you really do a metal end on this because I'm giving it quite some stick. There we go, that's getting nice. Now you can see the beads won't fall off, so if we'd have done this first, we'd have never got the beads on. So let's get to this other side and pop that in there. Don't worry too much about the angle. I'm going to tell you how to organise that. It's really sunny today, so I'm getting a lot of shadow and reflection. Sunny in Ireland, there's a novelty. Right, let me just beat this up a bit more. You don't want to go too far down the length of the wire while you're beating it, because the more you hit it, the more work hardened it becomes, and it will be very, very difficult for you to actually put the right angled bend in that we need. So I'm only beating up probably ½ an inch at the bottom at the most. It stretches out a little bit further, but that's about all I need. Have I got that? Yeah. A bit more, I think. Just turn it over. If you want a smooth end, I'd then beat it with the rubbery end, but I'm not right bothered about it looking planished. It's quite a nice look. Now that is not too bad. Sometimes it can be a bit sharp and you can file them, but to be quite honest, I'll probably end up trimming it anyway, so don't worry about that. Now I want this wire to bend in a right angle, so I'm going beyond where I've beaten it, and it'll fold over and the one will come the other way on the other side, but I want that straight so that it's flat with the shape of the wire and then a bend in, like so. So make the hammered bit flat by going over it with the pliers and twisting. On round wire this really doesn't matter. Oh, I've kinked it a bit, let's just straighten it up. It really doesn't want to straighten because it's so hard now. Near enough. Right, just beyond where I've beaten it with the hammer, and I'm just going to put a bend. Oh, sorry, going out of shot. Bend in there. It really is bright, isn't it, right now? Now we want both of them over the top, like that, and it's probably a little bit long. Let me just bend that up a bit because it's pushing it down. Alright then. These can be as close as you want, but the reason I tend to have a distance between them is I'm going to grip this very end and start. Whee! Right, I think I just shot the cat with that. Hang on a minute, I'll just go retrieve the bracelet. As you can see, the wire is very hard, so you have to be careful not to shoot the whole thing across the room. There we go. Come back. I shall blame the sunshine. Right, let's get everything out of the way so that I can't shoot anything else. Right, get a hold of that end and bend it around and around. Yeah, you see, that's going to be a bit big, I think. Let me keep bending and have a look. A lot of it goes on eye, so yeah, needs to be about there. So I'm just going to trim the end of this with my pliers. Just across there so it shortens it a bit. Also gives me a nice flat edge. Can you see where I'm trimming? There. Right, squeeze, twang, shoot the dog. I really ought to start shouting "for" every time I twang these. Now you're getting hold of that and you're twisting and twisting. You'll need to do this quite slowly because, as I said, the wire is thick and it's hard. And it's also quite difficult for you to get in, but I've got a little hook there and I'm just going to keep that hook going now. You don't want the hook too tight. If you can't get enough back pressure with your fingers, use the palm of your hand like that. And then you can close that up. Remember, it needs room to move. Okay, let's do the other side. You see, it's far too long. You can see that now. For it to balance with the other one, it's going to have to be much shorter. So I'll cut that off. That one came off easy. And then, whoops, bend round. So do you remember at the beginning when I said it was really simple, but you did need some brute strength? This is where the brute strength comes in. However, it's nice to use such thick wire because you get a sturdy bracelet, but without hammering these ends, there is no way that you could do this design because it would just be too thick, too cumbersome, and it would look pretty ugly. So I've curled around and I'm just shaping that up again. Now straighten those corners, and we have to see that it moves, and it does move. Keep shaping, wriggling, and there we go. If you want, you can go back onto your whatever you've used as a form and just make sure that you haven't bent anything out of shape. You'll have to wriggle the beads around and sort of bend it on the other side to where the beads are, because the last thing you want to do is get those beads in the way and either mush the beads. You see there's like a lumpy bit there, don't like that lumpy bit, so I'm just going to bend that back in with my fingers, and if that won't work, the joys of plastic jawed pliers, there we go, just ease that there. Fine. So now you have a bracelet that opens up, passes over the hand, closes up again. Let me just swivel it round so that it's on the underside, and then you've got beads that go over the top and your alteration bit at the bottom. Makes them very easy to sell because it's not quite one size fits all, but you will only need to do maybe 2 or 3 different sizes and you will find that they will fit all. They're very popular for little girls, so if you can find some dangles to go on, you know, butterflies, things like that, they sell really, really well. Now if you were making it plain, I'm going to show you how much easier it is to make it plain. Now we did the difficult one, if you like, first, so I'm now going to show you how much easier it is to make it without any beads already on it. I aren't going to bother measuring up this time because this is just one that will go into stock. So I've straightened the wire out straight from the reel, chopped myself a piece off, and then if you wanted you could hammer in the middle and do some stamping. I'm going to hammer the ends while the wire is flat, which is easier because it is a lot less awkward wriggling around with a circular piece trying to get it in and out of the way. And then I'm going to hammer the other end. So much easier than with the bead on. Once you've got both ends hammered, you can bend the wires one up one way, one up the other, so you've got like a funny zigzag shape. Shape it up around a bracelet shaper. I've gone round a little one there, and then make sure that both things are on the top and curl them round to go underneath. If that is too long, you want to trim the other side, keep curling it until it goes all the way around. So it's exactly the same things that I did with the other. I've speeded it up because you don't need to see it again, you can watch the other one. And I'm trimming this end and curling it round. Now what I'm going to do to show you how to solve it is, if you find that you've got your bracelet done and you find it won't move, so let me just tighten this up too far. So when you pull, it's solid. You need to work out which one's too tight. So that one's tight. Then you need to start and ease pliers inside. That may be enough to give you movement. It doesn't. So what you need to do is really get in there. Now you'll find if you use your snips, I'm not going to cut, but because snips are so much littler, they will often prise a piece of metal out. Go in with your round nose pliers and smooth that circle so that it's slightly larger. There's movement coming back again. Try and get the pliers on the inside. Can you see where the round of the bracelet wire ought to sit? And then you can close that down. Straighten that wire, and then you've got movement. So if you've tightened up too tight, go in again, ease it round until you've got movement. Make sure it moves. Now that is why I suggest you don't use plate, because that movement over and over and over again on a plated wire is going to last like 2 minutes. So adding a bead, instead of doing that, like we did on the first one, what you can do is just get a little piece of extra wire. It's just a cast off little bit of copper wire here. I'm going to bend it all the way up. It's about 1/3 to 2/3 bend. Put the bead on the longer piece, wrap that up around the bead. If you hold the little tiny bit of wire at the bottom, you can then take that and wrap it around, because it tends to be super slipper. Can I grip anything there? There we go. Wrap the wire around. It really is super slippy. Go on. There we go. Just tighten it down. It needs to go around maybe 1.5 times. Like I say, it doesn't have to be a copper bead. You could use something really pretty like flowers or butterflies, or a little tag with somebody's name on, or something like that. They're all very, very popular. So just make a loop in the end. Don't make the loop too small, because you want this to run around the bracelet. It wants to be movable. And then just pop it over the edge so that it moves. Pliers over to hold, flat pliers to then just wrap around to make a little dangle. You can have multiple little dangles added on. It's a nice way of getting repeat business. If you do something like a show that's regular, or if you have an Etsy shop, you can actually offer to add dangles on, extra ones, at a later date, and people are often quite prepared to, just a little bit, add a bit of extra. So you've got one that's got beads already on, slightly more difficult to make. You've got one that's absolutely plain, and you've got one that's plain with a dangle on. I hope you enjoyed it. Can't wait to see yours. Thank you very much for watching. Happy wrapping.